You're watching WALA Channel 10, bringing you more news more often. Now, from the #1 news station on the Gulf Coast, this is Action News 10 live at 10 p.m.
Imagine if the walls of your home suddenly collapsed. It happened to folks in this building and it turned deadly.
Plus, the Simpson jury gets a laugh as Cato Kalin takes the stand. I'll explain. Good evening, everyone. I'm Bob Britt.
And I'm Deiah Foster. Those stories coming up in a moment. But first tonight, we begin with a tragic shooting at a post office. 4 people are dead tonight after what police believe is an attempted robbery gone wrong. Here's video from the scene tonight. It happened at a shopping district in Montclair, New Jersey. We're told all of the victims were postal workers closing up for the night. Police say a 5th person was also shot and is in critical condition right now with a gunshot wound to the head. The person or persons responsible for the attack managed to escape before police arrived. Tonight, authorities are going door to door in the area looking for clues. A Gulf Coast man is in critical condition tonight after being shot by his own nephew. It happened this afternoon on Leakin Street in Mobile. The suspect, 22-year-old Darius Demetrius Jones, turned himself in to authorities this afternoon. A preliminary investigation determined the two got into a fight. Then Jones later returned and shot his uncle, 51-year-old Richard Don Thomas, in his own home. Jones lived next door to his uncle, and that's where police confiscated a gun. Jones is charged with first-degree assault tonight.
Murder trial on the Gulf Coast came to an end this evening. This man coming up, 29-year-old Albert Beasley, was found guilty on 4 counts of capital murder. He was on trial for the 1993 murder of 40-year-old Kathy Barlow of Bruton and her 13-year-old daughter, Angel Hall. The jury only deliberated 3.5 hours before returning that verdict. The sentencing phase of the trial begins tomorrow. The Simpson murder trial recessed for the night after hearing from 2 very different witnesses. One was Detective Philip Van Natter, who admitted mistakes were made during the investigation. The second, Cato Kalin, America's most famous house guest, who's making the most of his instant celebrity. After weeks of dry, tedious testimony, Cato Kalin provided something unusual in a murder trial, comic relief, when prosecutor Marcia Clark asked him if he had expected to get help from Simpson for his acting career.
I don't think we're going for the same parts.
Then things got serious as he told how he got to know Nicole Simpson and O.J. and how he came to live rent-free on the Simpson estate. The prosecution wants to show O.J. was jealous of Nicole and that O.J. made the offer of free living when he learned Cato planned to live in Nicole Simpson's guest house. Court recessed before Cato could describe the thumps in the night that led police to look for the bloody glove. Detective Philip Van Natter ended 3 days on the witness stand, admitting that he made mistakes during the investigation, including the sloppy handling of evidence like blood samples. The court also acknowledged for the first time that the mystery envelope which surfaced last summer contains a knife that was not the murder weapon. Defense attorneys want to show that the police investigation was so haphazard that officers overlooked the knife in their search of the Simpson home. And tomorrow, Cato Kalin returns to the witness stand. In a New York courtroom, victims of a cold-blooded killer called on a judge to give Colin Ferguson the maximum sentence. Ferguson, convicted of killing 6 people and wounding others on a Long Island commuter train, sat quietly as he heard his victims call for him to be locked away for good.
I would ask that this criminal receive no special treatment, and he be treated as any other common criminal. Perhaps being placed with his own kind, cause him to reflect on his actions and the pain and suffering he has caused so many.
Kevin's mother testified to the suffering, calling Ferguson an evil man who wasn't even worth her hatred. Ferguson will be sentenced tomorrow. The maximum he could receive is 25 years to life on each of the 6 murder counts.
It's an unbelievable sight in New York City's Harlem. Take a look at this. The wall of this 6-story apartment building crumbled to the ground this morning. As you can see, the floor of the exposed apartments tilted down, spilling residents and their belongings into the alley below. 3 people inside the building died. 7 others were injured. City officials say the building had a history of code violations, but at this time, it is not clear if the accident was the result of any of them. In Japan, police seized control of a secretive religious group's headquarters just 2 days after a deadly nerve gas attack on the Tokyo subway system. Thousands of police in riot gear throughout Japan swooped down on the facilities of a group that normally will not allow even utility meter readers on its property. However, authorities refused to link the raids directly to the nerve gas attack, instead citing the unsolved kidnapping of a public official. The group denies any involvement in the attack, but reports tie it to the release of irritating gases near its facilities. Meanwhile, 2 more have died from the attack tonight, bringing the total dead to 10.
State troopers are investigating a horrible accident on the Causeway tonight. 36-year-old Terry Godwin apparently lost control of his Chevy pickup, swerved across the westbound lane of the Causeway, clipped one light pole, slammed into another, taking it into the bay. It took 45 minutes for troopers, rescue workers, and passersby to remove the pole, free Godwin, and pull out the truck. Authorities don't know exactly what happened, but witnesses say it seemed that Godwin had some sort of attack shortly before he lost control of the truck. Godwin was rushed to USA Medical Center, where he's now in guarded condition.
It appears yesterday's Bayway disaster wasn't enough to slow drivers down this morning. State Trooper spokesperson Mike Bone tells us this morning commuters went just as fast as usual despite yesterday's deadly pileup, and there was even a light fog this morning. Meantime, National Transportation Safety officials are in Mobile surveying the site. They plan to make recommendations to state and local officials about what might be done to prevent future mass collisions. Well, survivors of yesterday's wreck are still trying to cope with this evening.
But one Gulf Coast woman, recovery may come a little bit quicker with the help of some old friends. Florida resident Judy Kennedy was reunited with a Mobile couple she hadn't seen in 19 years. They were old military friends. Doolin and Eva Lyles saw Kennedy's husband last night right here on Action News 10, so today they rushed over to USA Medical Center to visit their long-lost friend.
We're so happy that she's alive, that they're both just didn't get injured, and we're just so thankful.
Kennedy suffered a cracked rib and a bruised heart. Her husband also had some cuts and bruises. The couple's now heading back to their Florida home.
If you had a fire or medical emergency at your house tonight, would help get there in time? As Action News 10's Renee Dowles explained, some city officials say the answer could be no.
This is the LeBaron Woods subdivision in northwest Mobile. Gary Nolan has lived here for 9 years. He says if he ever needs firefighters, he hopes they would get here quickly.
I really couldn't understand why, being in Crichton down there is only, I guess, with a fire truck probably 4 or 5 minutes away, I would think, and then the nearest one would be over to Park. That, I would think they probably could get here quicker, and I couldn't understand why they couldn't.
But city officials say it would probably take more than 6 minutes to get fire units to Nolan's house, and thousands of other folks in Mobile are in the same potentially dangerous situation.
So we have some clear areas where we have some difficulties in delivering that uniform response that the council and the mayor deem as necessary for our city.
Public Safety Director Dick Cashdollar told city officials about the problem at a special strategic planning meeting today. They want to be able to respond within 6 minutes to every area, but right now they're missing the mark in a number of communities. That concerns some folks like Penny Poor. She had to rush her 3-year-old son to the hospital 6 times last year.
But the situation that I'm in now, I don't see where I could drive into the emergency room alone because I now have an 8-month-old. So it is a very critical issue for me.
The city has determined that there is definitely a problem when it comes to emergency response time in some of the outlying areas. Right now, city leaders aren't sure what to do about that problem. They're hoping to get some input from the community, especially those of you who live in the affected area. In Mobile, I'm Renee Dowles, Action News 10.
Mobile has 450 firefighters assigned to 17 stations throughout the city. Officials say part of the solution may be involving hiring additional firefighters and adding new fire stations.
Well, you see ads all the time on MTA buses, but how would you feel if they were put on your kid's school bus? Up next, we'll tell you about a new plan the Mobile County School Board has for the yellow vehicles.
Plus, some school teachers head to the Grill to raise money for the class.
We had a heavy fog yesterday, light fog this morning. Guess what? There's some fog out there developing right now. Our forecast tomorrow calls for it to burn off and for it to warm up. Lance?
Tonight, the 2 best teams in the NBA square off. We've got your highlights coming up a little bit later in sports.
And if you think your phone bill is high, wait till you see the one we're going to show you later. It's absolutely unbelievable.
Hometown headlines tonight. Back in December, the Pritchard City Council changed zoning in one area of the city from residential to commercial. This to allow new businesses to grow along the new I-65 interstate once the on- and off-ramps are open later this summer. Well, today, city leaders rescinded the ordinance. Several residents felt the change would have hurt property values, and should their homes become damaged during a storm or fire, they felt the ordinance would not allow them to rebuild. The commercial designation would have stretched along Whistler to Turner Streets, 1,500 feet from the interstate back into the residential areas. But Council Vice President Wayne Lafitte told Rod Odom residents now don't have to worry.
What we're going to do now is send it back to the zoning board and the planning board and ask that they rezone at least 200 feet off of Whistler Street and Turner Road, which won't affect the homes in that particular area.
The planning board should have the revised zoning in place within 2 weeks. At that time, officials will call for another public hearing.
The Mobile County school system may have come up with a way to raise more money. Take a look. This could be the new look for your child's school bus. That is, if the school board members vote on it. The proposal involves selling advertising space on school buses for $2,500 each. Board member Hazel Fournier says to make sure it's done tastefully, there would be only one advertiser per bus.
Only one. We must keep the integrity of the school bus intact. We want them to be attractive. We want them to be, people look up on them with pride. And only one per bus, and that's it.
There are 450 buses that run every day. If the school system sells space on every one, the potential revenue could be over $1 million. The school board will vote on the issue at its meeting tomorrow night. Raising money is also the main concern of some other school officials. Do you recognize this man? That's School Superintendent Paul Sousa working at the McDonald's on Dolphin Street and I-65. He's joining the faculty from Westlawn School in a fundraiser.
The school's principal says putting in the extra hours at McDonald's is worth it.
Anything that gives us extra income to buy those things that the teachers decide we need as a faculty, then it's worth it for the kids.
Through Friday, Westlawn School will get 20% of the total sales made from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. at this particular McDonald's. Well, the weather was perfect on this, the first full day of spring.
Beautiful.
You know, it's getting back warmer out there.
A little bit?
Yeah, a little bit. We've got the forecast. It's next up.
Serve it up.
Now, Action News 10 at 10 p.m. continues.
Well, let's look at our satellite photo and see if there are any clouds out there. We had a little light fog this morning, and we've got some fog developing right now up and down the coastline. As you see, the worst of the weather, though, appears to be on the west coast, and that's true. That's where the thunderstorms will be tonight. Matter of fact, it's kind of cold up here in Soda Springs, Idaho, 14 degrees this morning. The warm spot, 101 degrees down in Laredo, Texas. As we head into tomorrow, high pressure is going to build off to our east. We'll have a southerly flow of wind. That means morning fog, morning clouds, but as the day goes on, it's going to be partly cloudy. We'll look at some thunderstorms over Arkansas, over parts of the Ohio River Valley, and the warm weather in Texas, 101, maybe again in Laredo. Highs in the 90s, for sure in the 80s, and we expect those 80s to push their way into Louisiana, all the way in across Mississippi into Alabama. So the warming trend begins tomorrow, and it stays with us all through the week. The forecast on Thursday, the high that's going to be sitting right here tomorrow is going to move off to the Atlantic coast. We'll continue to have that warm flow of wind. We don't expect any rain Wednesday, Thursday, or even Friday. We expect this cool front to swing on past us, just drop down the humidity just a bit and change the flow of wind around to the northwest, but no real cooling and no showers expected from now all the way through Friday. Here's what we had today. It was sunny to partly cloudy. We went all the way to 80 degrees. The normal high for this time of the year would be about 72. The high along the coastline, 79 degrees for Pensacola, 75 in Fort Walton Beach, and 76 in Pascagoula. The morning lows in the 60s. The coolest spot was Mobile. We had 61 degrees there. Mobile had 65 at the 10 o'clock hour. It's 68 currently in Pascagoula, 66 in Pensacola, 67 in Fort Walton Beach. As you move away from the coastline, away from the clouds, it's 59 degrees currently in Montgomery. It's still 68, though, over in Hattiesburg, so where they have some of the clouds holding in some of the heating of the day. So what's the forecast tonight? Fog will develop around midnight. Stay with us. We're expecting light fog until about 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. Otherwise, it's going to be mostly fair and mild. The nighttime low should be around 62 degrees with light southwest winds. The forecast tomorrow, patchy morning fog and then partly cloudy skies in the afternoon and warmer for tomorrow. The high tomorrow expected around 82, maybe up to 84 degrees in some areas. Southwest winds at 10 to 15 miles per hour. And the extended forecast, we said no rain on Thursday and Friday. Isolated thunder thunderstorms on Saturday with a high of 76 and some thunderstorms on Sunday. But it looks pretty good starting tomorrow, Thursday, and Friday. So not bad weather. Temperatures in the 80s, 82 and 84 on Thursday and Friday. That's a good 10 and 12 degrees higher than normal for this time of the year.
You could tell we're into spring.
Yes.
Thanks, John Ed.
Up next, remember those folks who said movie popcorn is bad for you? Tonight they've got a new target that could affect your lunch plans for tomorrow.
I'm Dr. Deiah Dell. Coming up, the latest on antioxidants and cancer.
But first tonight, the closing numbers on Wall Street.
Action News 10 at 10 p.m. continues with news for your health.
If you like to have a healthy lunch, researchers say hold the mayo. The Center for Science and the Public Interest says if you want to trim the fat during your noon meal, skip the tuna salad and reach for the roast beef. It says a roast beef with mustard is one of the healthiest sandwich choices. It has 12 grams of fat. Turkey with mustard has 6 fat grams. Now, a dieter's favorite, tuna salad, is really no friend at all. The report says it has 56 grams of fat. Corned beef, 37 grams of fat, and egg salad with mayo, 44 fat grams.
Smokers may have been encouraged by recent news that vitamins may reduce their risk of cancer, but a new report is not very encouraging. Dr. Deiah Dell says the study is the latest to challenge the claim that beta-carotene is a cancer fighter.
What's up, Doc?
Bugs is asking a pretty important health question, and the rascally rabbit may be holding one of the answers in his hand, a carrot. After all, carrots are loaded with beta-carotene, so they're chock full of cancer-fighting antioxidants. The idea is oxygen damages DNA, and that's supposed to cause cancer. But do antioxidants really prevent cancer in real people, in the real world? We're beginning to doubt they do. Last year, for instance, a study looked at smokers who took lots of vitamins, especially antioxidants, and found they didn't provide cancer protection. And now a new study seems to add more discouraging news. This time, researchers got even more specific. Smoking breaks down cell DNA, so researchers measured the exact levels of these oxidation byproducts in smokers' blood cells. Then they gave subjects large amounts of antioxidants, nearly 10 times the normal amount. When they measured oxidative damage again, there was still no effect. The conclusion? Beta-carotene provided no antioxidant protection. That's not to say you don't need beta-carotene. You do, especially in the form of yellow vegetables like Bug's favorite food. But if you're a smoker gobbling vitamins to offset possible lung cancer, you may be better off just kicking the habit. I'm Dr. Deiah Dell for Action News 10.
Scientists say much more research is needed to sort out vitamin fact from vitamin fiction. Under new regulations, all health claims must be proven scientifically.
Time now to turn to sports, and Crawford is here.
Big night tonight.
Oh, and basketball, yeah, I know you're an Orlando Magic fan. That's right. They and the Phoenix Suns, owners of the 2 best records in the NBA. We've got your highlights, and the National Transportation Safety Board finally releases its official statement on what caused the crash that killed Davey Allison.
Closed captioning of Action News 10 at 10 p.m. is funded by your local Lincoln Mercury car dealers.
Nearly 2 years after the fact, the National Transportation Safety Board announced its conclusion on the helicopter crash that killed Davey Allison. Allison was trying to land at the Talladega Speedway when just before touching down, the copter suddenly plunged to the ground. It turns out Allison only had 2.8 hours of flight training in that particular type of aircraft, and the NTSB says it was his inexperience that led to the crash. Veteran race driver Red Farmer was also on board with Allison but survived his injuries. Let's turn to basketball now, and the game of the night in the NBA was in Orlando. The Magic and Suns, owners of the 2 best records in the league, and maybe a possible preview to this summer's NBA championship. Joe Klein, I'd like you to meet Shaquille O'Neal. He gets a good view of Shaq's dunk there. He had 26. Paul Westphal wondering why he left Phoenix for this. Penny Hardaway running the break, and this is pretty. Floats in for 2 of his 26. Orlando up a dozen at the half. It gets worse for Phoenix in the second half off the miss. Look at this, Penny Hardaway, the one-hander. 126-102. Orlando ends their 3-game losing skid in a big way over Phoenix. A conference doubleheader today for the University of Mobile. Belhaven going in against the Rams. Rams brought in a 19-6 record and looking to add to it. Great day to get out get the lawn chair, the umbrella, and take in a ball game, don't you think? Rams up 4-0 in the third until this big Belhaven hack cuts the lead in half. It's a 2-run shot. Zane Johnson was the pitcher who gives it up, but Johnson gets a little help later from his outfield. Take a look at this. Looks like a sure base hit, but Sambo Bowden flying into your picture to make the grab. Rams sweep the doubleheader from Belhaven 6-4 and 8-7. They're now 21-6. Meanwhile, unorthodox doubleheader for Spring Hill College. Badgers lost the first game to Auburn Montgomery 9-4 in the first. Then Nebraska Wesleyan is who they took on in the second. Here, Nebraska Wesleyan breaks the scoring seal in the second. Steve Miller scores on Mickey Cullen's fielder's choice. The Badgers bouncing back, scoring twice in the second. They go on to win it 10-1 to salvage the split. Again, they lost the first game, but win the second. On the scoreboard tonight, the South Alabama Jaguars are leading Alabama 8-7 in the ninth inning, while Bishop State drops a pair to George Wallace today in junior college ball. It's better for Bishop State's softball team. They take a pair from Meridian. And the University of Mobile's men's and women's tennis team beat, excuse me, I just lost my track, beat Northeast Oklahoma today. The men are the only undefeated team in NAIA play, and they will probably be ranked #1 when the rankings come out on one. Was there an arm or something in
I
here?
always do it. Don't worry about it. I lose my train of thought all the time. It's okay.
That's it.
All right. Thanks, Lance.
Well, have you ever gotten a phone bill that you just couldn't believe was yours?
I have, and if you have too, you'll want to hear this story. It may make you cringe the next time you go to the mailbox.
Did you ever get a phone bill and wonder, did I place all these calls?
One man thought the same thing when his phone bill came in a box. James Brennan of New York City got an 834-page phone bill this month that totaled to $25,000. One of those calls went to a number in Mobile. Others went to chat lines. The phone company's trying to figure out if Brennan made the calls or if he were a victim of phone line or credit card fraud.
That's got to be a bad sign when your phone bill arrives
Oh,
in
yeah.
a box.
I think I'd close it and run.
I think somebody's been hacking on his phone bill, don't you think?
A little bit.
Yeah. All right, we've got a little fog out there, just a little fog, morning clouds, and about 62 degrees when you wake up. The sun comes up just before 6 a.m. By the afternoon, partly cloudy and about 82 or 3 degrees. Wow. It's going to be warm.
All right, I believe it.
And that's it for us. Eric and Eleanor will be here at 6 a.m. with the latest morning news.
Tonight's show's coming up next. Have a good night.